In this video tutorial, I'll be discussing some special linear programming problems and we'll see how to deal with them while solving them using the simplex method. Now, with practice, we get quite efficient in performing the complex calculations involved in the simplex method, but at times, interpretation of the final tableau gets a little bit. So, in this video tutorial, I'm going to discuss such cases and see how to deal with them using simplex.
The special cases. The first case which I am going to consider is of a problem which has multiple optimal solutions. Now the linear programming problem which I will be considering is to maximize z, which is 8x1 plus 16x2, subject to these set of constraints. Now these constraints have been graphically represented here, and as you can see, the common portion is this blue shaded region, that's the feasible region. Now if we find out the value of z at these corner points, the corner points of the feasible region, we would find that the maximum value occurs at both B and C, which is 2400 for each of them. And as you can see here, this red line, the constraint 3 portion of the feasible region, is also containing all the points with the same value of the objective function. So not only these 2 points, but all the points on the line segment joining these 2 points would also give us the optimal solution. So that is what we can figure out from the graph, and we can conclude from the graph. Now let us see, in case we are solving such a problem using simplex method, then how do we identify such a situation. Now in order to solve this problem using simplex, I would first convert it to the standard form. So for converting it to the standard form, I am using the notations which have been referred in this book of linear programming, and accordingly I would now convert my objective function to a minimization function with the negative coefficients taken here, and I take the new name for the objective function, which is w, and then I am going to convert all my inequality constraints to equality constraints by adding slack variables in this case. So these are my new slack variables which have been added, and all my variables are non-negative. So I'll be starting to solve this problem using simplex. So this is the problem in the standard form, and the initial basic feasible solution which I have is that my basic variables are x3, x4 and x5, and their values are 200, 125 and 900, and the others which are the non-basic x1 and x2, they have values 0. Now let us look at the tableau in the first iteration. So this is the tableau corresponding to the first iteration. Here we see that corresponding to x2, the value of Cj minus Zj is most negative, and being the minimization problem, this becomes our entering criteria, and according to the minimum ratio we would decide on the leaving criteria. So I am just going to skip that part, and I will straight away now move to the third iteration. Now in the third iteration we notice here that all the Cj minus Zj's are greater than or equal to 0. So that indicates optimality because it is a minimization problem, and accordingly we need to stop here and find the solution. Now in case if we see the basic feasible solution corresponding to the tableau in this third iteration, we would notice that the value of x1 is 50, x2 is 125 and x3 is 25. So if we now refer to our original problem, which was a problem in 2 variables, and see the graph of this, we can notice that we are talking about or referring to the corner point B, which has coordinates 50 and 125, and which we also had seen that it was one of the optimal solutions. So we have reached optimality in this table, and this is the optimal solution which we have obtained. But now how to check that this indicates that there are more than one solutions to this problem, that is, it has an alternate optima as well. Now for that we will notice here that the Cj minus Zj's are 0 not just for basic variables, but it is also 0 for a non-basic variable. So before we can interpret what this means, let me just explain you briefly what is the interpretation of Cj minus Zj. Now Cj minus Zj would represent the net change that will occur in the value of the objective function when the value of the corresponding jth variable increases by 1 unit. So it means that what is the difference that is going to occur in the value of the objective function when I am going to increase these variables by 1 unit and increase them in the solution. Now a 0 against a Cj minus Zj value for a non-basic variable indicates that we can increase the value of this variable x4 without altering the value of the objective function. So a 0 for Cj minus Zj indicates that there will be no change in the value of the objective function, and therefore since this is the optimal value of the objective function, there will be no change in this, which means we will get another optimal solution by replacing this variable or increasing this variable by 1 unit. So let us see what happens if we try to make x4 as a basic variable in the next iteration. So I'll show you the table corresponding to the next iteration. So here we would see that since we want our x4 to become a basic variable, correspondingly we would decide the leaving criteria. So here we have these two ratios, 25 by 1 and 125 by 1. So accordingly this is the minimum ratio, and so our leaving variable would be x3. So the pivot element is 1, and we would perform the pivot operations to convert this to the next iteration tableau. So here you can notice that you are at the corner point B. So that is what we had just explained, and now we will move to the fourth iteration. So in this iteration, if you see, the value of x1 is 100, value of x2 is 100 again, and value of x4 is 25. So in place of x3 now we have x4 as a basic variable, and if you refer to the graph again, you would notice that this is indicating the corner point C. So from B we have moved to C without altering the value of the objective function. Thus this presence of a 0 value for Cj minus Zj for a non-basic variable would always indicate another optimum solution to the problem. Okay. So we can see here that we get another optimum solution, which is x100, x200 if we refer to the original problem, that is this corner point C, and this solution we see has the same value of the objective function. So how do you identify now that a problem has multiple optimal solutions? Whenever you have a Cj minus Zj for a non-basic variable, that would indicate this particular case. So you can also say for this particular question, the optimal z value, z is your objective function for the original problem, which was a max problem. So optimal z value for that particular problem is 2400, and optimal solutions are all the points on the line segment joining these two corner points B and C. That is your optimal solution. Now I'll move on to the next case. The next case which I am going to consider is a case of degeneracy. So that is a case when one of our basic variables is having a value 0. Now for that I am going to consider a problem which is to maximize this z, which is 3x1 plus 9x2, and subject to these two constraints. So you can see here I have again drawn the feasible region for this problem. So these are my two constraints, and this blue shaded region is the feasible region. And if you check the corner points for the objective function value, you can see here that at the corner point A, which is having coordinates 0 and 2, the objective function value is 18, which is the maximum, and so by the graphical method we can conclude that this corner point is our solution and the maximum z value is 18. Now if we solve this problem using simplex, then how do we identify such a case and what else can we conclude from that? So let us just first again convert this problem in the standard form in order to solve it using simplex. So I am following the same procedure and I have converted it to the standard form. Now again I'll repeat the standard form here, and you can see these are your basic variables x3 and x4, and the values of the basic variables are 8 and 4. The other two, which is x1 and x2, they have values 0. So I'll take up the initial table corresponding to this problem. So this is my initial tableau corresponding to this problem. Now here most negative Cj minus Zj is minus 9. So that would indicate that x2 will now enter the basis. So I'll just repeat the tableau again. So your entering variable is x2, and for the leaving criteria you need to calculate the ratios. So for the first row this is the ratio 2, and for the second row again it comes out to be 2. So here you can see that there is a tie for the leaving variable. So in case there is a tie for the leaving variable, you can arbitrarily decide on any one of them to leave. So let's say x3 leaves the basis, and so correspondingly this element 4 becomes your pivot element, and we would perform the pivot operations in the usual manner to get the tableau in the next iteration. So this is our second iteration. Now again here we can see that this is not optimal, but what do we notice here is that one of the basic variables have become 0. So whenever we have a tie for a leaving variable, in the subsequent iteration you would find that one of the basic variables has become 0, which creates a situation of degeneracy. So your basic variable here is x4, which has value 0, and thus you can see that the basic feasible solution which you obtain in this particular iteration is a degenerate basic feasible solution. Now since we haven't reached optimality yet because we have a negative Cj minus Zj, so this would become the entering variable, and for the leaving criteria we have these two ratios. So obviously minimum occurs at 0. So x4 would be our leaving variable, and the element half is the pivot element, and we would again perform the pivot operations. So this is the tableau at the third iteration. Now here you notice that all your Cj minus Zj's are non-negative, so that indicates optimality. And what is the solution we get? The solution we get is x1 is 0 and x2 is 2. So this is our optimal solution, and it is a degenerate solution which is indicated by this value 0 here, which is appearing for the basic variable x1. So again, if we refer back to the feasible region of the original problem, what do we notice here? That this corner A02, we have this corner providing us the optimal solution, and you can also see that this point is an overdetermined point. So overdetermined means that it is determined by intersection of three of the constraint lines. The two lines are corresponding to the original set of constraints, and the third line is your y-axis, which corresponds to the non-negativity restriction. So you have three lines determining this single point, which indicates that this point is overdetermined. Okay, so if we have such a situation in the graph, and if you can figure it out that there is such a situation, then you would always end up in getting degeneracy. And we can also see from here that if we remove this first constraint from our feasible region, it is not going to make any difference to the feasible region, that would still remain the same. So that also indicates that one of the constraints is redundant. So whenever we have such a situation, it is because the point, the optimal solution, is overdetermined, and it would also indicate that we have a redundant constraint. Now I'll move on to the third case, which is a case of a unbounded solution. So we'll again first look at it graphically, and then we'll see how to identify it using simplex. So we consider this maximization problem subject to these two constraints. So if I plot the graph of this, we can see that this is the feasible region. Now here since it is an unbounded feasible region, so I have drawn these three red z lines corresponding to z equals to 18, 35 and 50, and you can see that if you move this z parallelly in the increasing direction of z, you would still remain in the feasible region, and you can increase z as much as you want to. So although we have these three corners, but we can't be sure, or we can't say that the maximum z value is 50, because you can see here that you can find or increase z as much as you want to, and you would still be inside the feasible region. So let us see how we can identify this situation in the simplex table. So I'll first convert it to the standard form. Now this is the problem in the standard form. The initial basic feasible solutions are given by these basic variables, which are x3 and x4, and the values of these basic variables are 10 and 40, and the non-basic variables, they have values 0. So this is my initial basic feasible solution. I have skipped the starting iterations, so I'll just move to the final iteration here, because this is where I get to see why this solution, this problem is an unbounded problem. So here, if you notice that all these Cj minus Zj's, they have not become non-negative. So that means there is still possibility of improvement of the objective function, since we are now dealing with the minimization objective function. So a negative Cj minus Zj indicates that it can be further improved. But if you go for checking the ratios, the minimum ratio criteria for the leaving variable, you can notice here that you cannot take either of these two ratios, because 20 by 0, so you have a 0 here and you have a negative number here. So none of these two ratios can be taken, and hence we cannot decide on the leaving variable. So whenever we have such a situation that we haven't reached optimality, which means there is still scope of improvement of the objective function value, but the leaving criteria is not giving us any variable for leaving the basis, that would indicate the solution being unbounded.
So now I hope you will be able to interpret the final simplex tabulate for such questions, and you will be able to obtain the solutions of such problems. Thank you for watching.